Hi everyone, welcome back to the Dirt Hippie channel. It's been a while since I did a video, and since we're coming up on gardening season, and if you're in the mid-Atlantic, most of the garden centers will start to open around March 1st. So I wanted to give you all some pointers about sort of what you should shop for and what you should ignore. That is Hammy. This is Hammy. Say hi, Hams. He's just very curious. This is the new office space, and so he's just exploring while it's open because it's not usually open. So I wanted to talk a little bit about climate change and how you should be working on your landscapes to adapt to climate change. It is here. I don't know if you believe it or not, but I will tell you it is here. I've seen it in our landscape, and I've seen it especially in Alaska. The temperatures here are 2 degrees in this region are 2 degrees warmer already, and the precipitation is showing a trending increase, at least so far in the coastal areas, and it's likely to trend similarly in our inland areas. We have not seen it yet on our inland areas, but we likely will see something change. One of the issues we have is that climate change makes everything more extreme, and so we're also likely to have some drought conditions in times that we didn't have drought conditions before. Sorry, Hammy's trying to knock the camera over. So the first thing I wanted to do was talk to you about how to build a landscape that can be beneficial for climate change, to keep all the critters intact, provide spaces and food for those critters. One of the issues is that with climate change, you're likely to have some times of year when you're not able to water using external water sources, meaning you can't turn on your spigot to water your trees and shrubs. So you'll need to have some trees and shrubs and perennials that can survive in drought conditions, as well as maybe being inundated for a couple of days at a time, because we do also have flooding events. So it's important to choose trees and plants that are hardy and can survive those conditions. Most of what I'll say is native, and then there are some non-invasive, non-native shrubs and trees that are also fine to use. Just be mindful when you put things in to keep an eye on them and make sure they don't get out of hand. So the first thing to talk about is trees. Now, of course, trees help with our air quality. They clean it. They help with our water quality. They help with energy efficiency, and you know, so there are a lot of great. Sorry, Amy just keeps going over there to the camera. Stay. So there are a lot of great benefits that you can get from trees. So if you already have a tree in your landscape and it is established, then the best thing that you can do for it is to mulch it out to the drip line. And by drip line, I mean where the limbs are extending out to, mulch all the way out underneath to the ends of those branches. And I know that seems like a lot, but it will do a few things. First of all, you will protect the roots from drying out. The root zones are so critical to keeping the trees going and providing them with the critical water needs and nutrients and everything. So the mulch will help to keep the soil moist. The second thing it does is to protect the tree roots from mower blades. You shouldn't be planting grass underneath your trees anyway. It's not necessary. It always is patchy, and you get mad and you reseed it every year. It's a waste of money and a waste of time. So if you just mulch all the way out to the drip lines, you don't ever have to run your mower underneath the trees. You'll never have to limb them up, so you can get the mower underneath the trees. You can just leave the trees be. So it does protect them from mechanical damage, like the physical cutting and wounding of the tree roots can allow for infection. So it will will reduce that impact as well. And the third thing it does is reduce soil compaction. So you're not running your mower over it, you're not walking over that zone or anything. The soil compacts when you run it over with the mower, and it means that the pore spaces disappear, so the water and air it doesn't have any pockets to store that stuff. So you will have a lot more runoff if you compact your soil by mowing it all the time. So the best thing you can do for trees is to mulch all the way out to the drip lines. So when you get a new tree, your drip line is going to be small, but plan for it to be much bigger in the future. So you will be losing lawn every year. Just keep that in mind. That's something to look forward to every year, is losing bits of your lawn that you don't have to mow. If you do not have a tree, but you are looking for one, I have a couple of suggestions for you, depending on what kind of space you have, and then what your ultimate goal is. So a goal is really good to have. If you want to attract birds, there's going to be this type of tree I'll recommend. If you want to provide shade for your house, it'll be this one. So it really depends on what your goal is. But the ideal situation is it provides a lot of different things. It's habitat, it's food, and shade for your house. So if you have space for a large tree and you do not currently have one, and you do not have utility issues, encroachments or anything like that, I would recommend putting in an oak. And I say that because oaks are by far the most beneficial trees out there for wildlife, and they do provide significant energy savings. So my two favorite ones are swamp white oaks and bur oaks. Swamp white oaks are native to this area. Bur oaks are a little bit more western, but they've started to move into this area, and they do fine here. They don't mind droughty soils. They don't mind crappy soils, actually. So go ahead and plant them in areas where you might have really crummy soils. Swamp white oaks will do well in really compacted soils, and can do well in inundated soils as well. They will be fine in droughty soils too. Just make sure that you mulch again. Just mulch the drip lines. If you don't have the space necessarily for an oak, you could do a hornbeam if you have a shaded area. You could do a redbud if you need an edge tree, something that you might have a forest behind you, but your piece of the yard is a little bit sunny. You have space for a redbud. And then if you have a sunny spot and you love birds, plant a hawthorn. I would highly recommend a hawthorn. They're like an inverted oval, so they grow wide. They're not too tall. They're about 20 to 25 feet max. They have these nice little palms. They look like little fruits, but they're called palms, and they attract the birds in the winter. They're just fantastic. So definitely look at those if you're trying to find trees. And then we'll move on to shrubs. Now, this is by not an extensive list at all. These are just some that I like for this area, and I'm trying to give you guys ideas and thinking about climate change and what's going to do well here. And these trees will do really well here. Stop. He's just being a jerk. So the next thing that we're going to look at is shrubs. Quit. He's being a jerk. So shrubs, I would say the biggest thing with shrubs that people get themselves into is that they go for the pretty thing, and you need to really be cautious about that, because the pretty things are often the most invasive. So here are my 3 no's. No Nandina, no barberry, and no euonymus or burning bush. Stay away from those 3 things. They are very invasive, and we find them in our forests a lot, so just stay out of them. Now he's playing with the oh my god. No Nandina, no barberry, and no burning bush. Just keep those off your list. They don't have any place in your landscape. They're absolutely invasive, horrible shrubs. Never buy them. Some things that you can put in, if you're looking for like an evergreen, you can put in an inkberry. If you're looking for something with really pretty fall berries, a beautyberry. The magenta purpley berry clusters of berries, really pretty. You could go with a red twig dogwood. Generally the deer stay away from red twigs, and they're beautiful in the winter. They're just spiky red twigs, just gorgeous. And if you continue to prune them back every year, you'll get the new flushes of growth are red. As they age, they turn sort of a grayish brown, but if all the new twigs are going to be red, so you can just keep pruning them back and they'll look beautiful all the time. On that same vein, remember I said no Nandina, no barberry, and no burning bush. Also no vinca vine, no English ivy. Keep those out of your landscape. If you want a beautiful vine that is great for wildlife, try a native honeysuckle. And these are, make sure that you get a native one. They're really fantastic for hummingbirds, and if you plant them in a sunny spot, they will take a bit of time to establish, but you will have a lovely place to watch hummingbirds. Just put them near a place where you sit and can watch them, and you just have a really great place to watch the birds. So again, I'm going to repeat: no barberry, no burning bush, and no Nandina. Sorry, I forgot the Nandina. Anyway, just stay away from those. They have no place in your garden at all. Some of the other shrubs you can think about, any of the arborvitaes do fine. You can look at some of the cedars, like the gold mops and that kind of thing. Those are fine. They aren't invasive. So anything that's not invasive is fine. Do your research. If you're not sure about something, do your research. Look it up. Even ask me, shoot me an email or send me a message or something, and I'll be happy to answer. If it's a real specific question like that, I can give you a yes or no. That's easy for me to answer. If you want me to redo your entire garden, I'm going to charge you a consultation fee, and it's going to be a lot of money. So if you're just asking me one thing like that, I can help you. Now, moving on to perennials. So we're creating a ladder. So you start with the trees, and then you go to your shrubs, and now you're looking at perennials. And there are so many great perennials out there, and there are some that are better than others. Some of the best ones for wildlife that I've found are coneflower, common milkweed, bee balm, lupin, and goldenrod. And goldenrod is the top of the list. Now, it doesn't flower until fall, but it is so phenomenal as a fall pollinator species. It serves so many different critters, so please put in goldenrod, find a place for it. And they're all different species. There's some that are really short and some that are super tall. Like I have ones that are 6 feet tall, but you don't have to get ones that are 6 feet tall. You can get ones that are, a foot tall. They're all going to be great. And there's so many other things. Joe Pyeweed is awesome. I have some of that in my yard. You can put in asters. Those are also another fall flowering thing. The lupin is going to be your first flowerer. It's going to be one of the first things that comes out. So it'll be great for those early insects. And then bee balm will be in midsummer, coneflowers midsummer. Any of those ones that have seeds or a lot of great nectar, those are going to be fantastic. And there's other things like borage, things that you can use medicinally, and if you want to make teas and things. Chamomile, any of that stuff is actually really great for the critters. Oh, he came back. So just make sure that you look it up and check it to make sure that it doesn't have invasive qualities, and then go forth and plant. But just the other thing is diversity. Make sure that you have a lot of diversity in your yard, because that will attract the critters. You will have a better chance of having an ecologically friendly and balanced garden. You're not going to have to do a lot of spraying because the bugs will take care of each other, hopefully. I'm not saying that you won't have to at all, because we're still seeing some invasive insects and diseases that we have to treat for. But for the most part, our native ones will take care of themselves, and they will be eaten by parasitoids or taken out by some fungus that's naturally occurring or something. So those kinds of things are really neat to see when you have a garden that has its own working ecology. So those are my tips before you head out to the garden center this year. And I'm still working on the guide for you, the awful, not totally helpful plant guide. So that will not be PG. It'll probably be rated R, but fun nonetheless. And I mean, it'll still be useful. It's just silly. So I'm still working on that and trying to make sure that it's not all encompassing, but at least it has some of my favorites in it that I think people leave off their lists. So it'll be the first thing that we'll do is probably perennials, just because I already have started that list, and then I'll do one for shrubs and trees later, but the first thing will probably be perennials. So be on the lookout for that. I'll let everybody know when it drops. I haven't finished it yet. So anyway, happy planting, and I will catch you outside very soon. It is warming up. We haven't had any snow. I went out hiking today and it was 40. So I imagine that we're going to warm up pretty soon, and I will be out there building new little garden beds and planting things and have you out in the garden with me more often. So with that, happy planting, and I'll catch you outside.